Hills meeting to order. Today is January 21st. We will postpone our approval of minutes till next month. And so our consideration today is a BOA 21.01. And we will have staff give us a report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did want to also mention we don't have to, usually we do put this year's calendar on the agenda to approve. That we can handle that next month as well. And it is posted online if anyone wants to know just when those regular meetings. They are the third Monday of every month. And I believe thus far this year was the only pre-scheduled addition or amendment to that. Since Monday was MLK, this was scheduled for a Thursday. Every other one will be the third Monday of the month. We have one case on the agenda tonight, and this is a special exception for personal storage at 100 Equal Rouge Shopping Center. This is located on Greeno Road. The subject site is highlighted on the image on the screen. It is currently zone B2. Aerial image here, just to bring up some uniqueness on this site. It's a commercial site, and something kind of unique on this is it's multiple tenants, so there's 3 tenants in the building on the subject site and more within that perimeter. And they are condominiumized, so different owners for each space. The request is a special exemption variance for personal storage. So the special exemption for personal storage, a lot of those details are for exterior personal storage where you have a lot of space and drive aisles, and you'll see some of those things. Then there's only in B2 can you apply for exemption for interior or less than 2 acres for personal storage. So this meets that requirement. There is requirements for parking of 2 spaces for the management office and management offices and employees, and then 1 space for every 25 storage cubicles. We don't know the exact details on that. You'll see that in our recommendation, if the board would like to approve that we can handle those. The final details, we've got some rough numbers. We'll look at that in a second. But this is the floor plan, I believe, and I'll give the applicant a chance to speak to this. I believe we're looking somewhere around 230 units. That's in flux. We didn't want to pin them to this within this variance. But just for example, for storage, that would require 12 parking spaces. So if that goes up or down, we can review that as staff and make sure that that happens. And I think looking at the contract, if there's parking related to that, that might limit the number of units. The narrative was submitted by the applicant. There's lack of personal storage indoors is certainly an option that is not provided everywhere. And there are support from other adjacent business owners within this. I'm not sure what to call that. Is it condominium, business condominium? They're Equal Rouge. So I think there's letters of support there. We always put this here, but it's just for a follow-up how this needs to be recorded if a variance is received. So want to make sure we have that and memorialize that. Staff is recommending approval with one condition, and that is the updated site plan will have the number of cubicles, and that is compliant with our zoning code that the parking is sufficient for that use. So I'll be happy to ask any questions. I know we do have some folks in the audience. At least 2 would like to speak to this case. Maybe more, Chairman, if you want to, when you open that up.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So you said 12 parking spaces for this project?
So we start with 2 if there's for the management offices. Mm-hmm. And then for every 25 spaces, you have to provide 1 parking. So we use the number that they're looking at now, 230 as an example. So we round up. So 11.2 would be required with 230 spaces. We round that up to 12.
So it seems like in that area there's way more than that. Is that correct?
There is way more than that. I can tell you a little, you know, as we review things, and you'll hear me say this in many cases, I don't like losing retail space, especially in B2, because that provides a tax base for the city. This space has been utilized by an office for a number of years and hasn't been generating that. So there's no loss to the city in that. And with the square footage that's provided there, that may actually, because there's more parking required for retail, that may be a problem. You know, with the shared parking there, Agave next door is a successful restaurant, the bank and some of those others, that may provide a challenge to get a retail store that size in this space. So looking at those options kind of weighed into our recommendation.
Thank you. Alright, so,
Yeah, on this, it shows the spaces marked out, and you said they're gonna have 23?
230 is a working number, and I'll let the applicant.
33.
230 units of, and that's a working number, please, we'll allow the confirmation of that in future plan. Don't have a floor plan yet, Mr. Snyder, so that's kind of why we're presenting this the way it is, and we want to make that as a condition that we'll make that, you know, whatever the zoning code allows as far as number and provided parking, we'll do that. There's no attempt or ask to expand the building, the footprint. So this is, as far as I know, all interior work. So that's, okay. So that,
thank you.
you're welcome.
This time I ask the applicant to step forward, please. You'll state your name and address for us.
Good evening. I'm Pratt Thomas, address 3280 Dolphin Street, C104, Mobile, Alabama. Appreciate y'all's time tonight. I'm here we're in agreement with the staff's recommendation, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have about the project. Yes,
I
sir.
have one. What is, the building, I presume, faces, looking at that, faces out that way, is that right?
Yes, sir. Faces Greeno.
I think it used to be the old food world.
What do you mean, faces?
And most recently, the CPSI was there, right?
See, everything
Correct.
on this thing is so small that you can't read it.
Mind if I give you a couple of pointers here on yours?
Yeah.
So, Agave Restaurant here,
Yeah,
the
okay.
church there, CSI, the Smart Bank here, McDonald's sits here on the Greeno is.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so these people that are gonna go into this building, is that right?
Yes,
Or is
sir.
it, okay. They're gonna park over here in these spaces.
If, with that limited number of spaces, they're more likely to utilize these. Smart Bank in this development, had to provide their own spaces. You know, I think Agave kind of, when they're having a good night, kind of spill into this area.
And there's gonna be, there's how many? 230 spaces?
No, sir, and I'm gonna draw this, is this okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
This space will be storage units, and just like a little 8x10 unit, there'll be 230 of those in this space, or somewhere close to that number. For every 25 of those spaces, they have to provide one parking space.
Okay.
So the number using 230 as an example is somewhere around 12 parking spaces is all that's required by our zoning code. And the thought there is not all 230 people are coming
I'm
to get
still,
there.
I'm still confused. 230 is the number of parking spaces in this picture?
No, sir. 230 would be the number of storage units within this building.
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay.
I got you. No wonder, I'm trying to figure out what is the parking, and I got it now.
For this use, there should not be an issue with parking, whereas some other uses in B2, there might be.
I have one question. Where's your loading and unloading? Is it in the back or the front?
Yes, sir. Our plan is to have an office in the front. The manager's office
Right.
will be in the front, and then loading and unloading will be in the rear.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
So there won't be any exterior changes to the front of the building as far as overhang, drive-through, or anything like that?
Nothing structural. Maybe some minor cosmetic.
Okay.
And I think, that was a concern. So I think the first time we spoke was looking at an option of a portico up front. But because that's a drive aisle for the rest of the tenants, we expressed some concerns, and I think you
Yeah.
did a great job of talking with other tenants, and this is the application when you received it.
Now, will your storage units be all on one level, or they'll be multi-level?
It'll all be on one level. Yes, sir.
And it's just the main part of the building, not Agave or previous Goodwill? It's just
Correct.
the middle part?
Yeah, on that site plan, Agave's on the top.
Mhm.
And then there's a line that goes across. This space is in the middle, and then Freedom Church is on the bottom. And our space will just be in the middle, 45,000 square feet.
So how do you propose the people that have this storage space are gonna move their stuff from here in case they wanna take it home with them? What, do they go out the back door here, or do out the front?
They'll
Yes.
use the rear exit. There's gonna be an opening at the back of the building.
So there's gonna be an exit over here someplace?
In the rear of the building? Just,
Well, this is the rear of the building, is it not?
yeah, this is the rear, so this is where there's a road that's previously there because it used to be a grocery store. So they'll have storage, they'll be there loading and unloading.
So there's no way for them to drive to the thing, or?
Yeah, there is a through this way and then out this way.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Point.
Now open the meeting to any public comments for or against the project. And I would like to note, we do have two letters in our package supporting this project
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, I think there were two more emails.
that came through.
came in.
Okay. And were they for or against it?
They were for.
So all four emails were for the project.
Yes, sir.
Anybody from the public that would like to speak against or for it? We'll close that portion and have a discussion. Board members? A motion, please.
All right, we approve.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. If you'll state your name and address for us.
Larry Staskels, 60 North Ingleside. I happen to be in the unique position of being the only residential property that directly abuts this project without the benefit of a separated public street. I'm gravely concerned. I was not able to read that drawing as you were, sir, very clearly, but with the applicant's comments, it affirmed what I was concerned about, that apparently all of the traffic coming out of this facility, the business traffic, if you will, is going to enter and exit the west side of the project. I assume I'm correct with that assumption.
I don't think I think you're gonna have to come around the building, so that it would go to behind the building on the west side.
But I think, and maybe this is a better question for the applicant, I think they're gonna have to go out either to Fairhope Avenue or, what's the street McDonald's is on?
Estelle.
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 Yes.
Edward.
There's no way to go,
It's Estelle.
Oh,
Yeah, Edwards is across the street.
Yeah, it's a still.
I understand ultimately that traffic will have to reroute back to the east. But as the move-in, move-out traffic occurs from this building, it will exit to the west into that very narrow alley. It is not a road behind that property. It is an alley. Again, I happen to be the only abutting residential property. I don't need the additional noise and confusion that's going to occur with people moving stuff in and out of these warehouses. Now, I have no objection. They have every right to make it into a storage building. That's not my issue. My issue is the lack of consideration for the impact on the immediately abutting residential properties. The city of Fairhope has an obligation to protect the integrity of its residential properties.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
This has always had access for deliveries and everything for it. There used to be a grocery store.
I'm fully aware of what it was, sir. We've lived there since 1960.
Yeah, but it's always been established as a delivery area behind us.
Unquestioned, no argument on that point. But now you're talking about 230 move-in, move-out events.
Yeah, but I don't, versus a grocery store where you had daily deliveries and all and such, I think this is gonna be, my personal opinion, I think you're gonna have lower impact than what you have when it was a grocery store.
Easy for you to say, sir, you don't have to live there and put up with it. We do.
Okay.
And this is whatever you call it, this is a variance. This is not a, I don't know what the right words are, Hunter, a guaranteed right. And to put all the burden on me as an adjacent property owner so they could do a development is not fair. It's not right. They can do their development, but they can move their ingress, egress access to a different configuration to prevent all that additional traffic. I'd like to see you try to pull U-Haul trailers and all that in back behind that narrow alley and negotiate them. Y'all are really not giving any consideration to your residential property owners. Like I say, we are the only ones that do not have the benefit of a separation with a public street. Now, I know there's not a whole lot I can do except voice my opinion, which is what I'm doing. But, I hear Fairhope talk about over and over again, every time we have something come up, that we want to protect the integrity of Fairhope as we know it. Y'all are fixing to screw the pooch on this one. And all I'm asking you is to give consideration to that adjacent residential property when you're allowing something that is not an obligation to be allowed. They can reconfigure their development. Do the development. I'm not debating whether they have a good project and whether it's needed or not. That's not what I'm here to talk about. But you don't have any right to devalue my property for their benefit. That's about all I got to say.
Thank you very much.
How wide is that area from, I guess I don't know, there's a driveway through here, there's a, you know, an alleyway or whatever you wanna call it behind there. How wide is that? Is that wide enough they can back a truck in and turn it around and all that?
It's big enough where you can put trucks through it, because it
You
used to
can
be.
what?
Absolutely, you're
Yeah, it used to
absolutely
be
correct.
semi-trucks that went back there for delivery.
But did they back in?
No,
Did they
they
have
pulled
a
in.
receiving dock?
Yes.
You can pull in and
But
go
they-
all the way around the building.
They were not able to turn them around, it was a one-way transit. It's not wide enough for them to maneuver the vehicle. They could drive through there, the vehicle, they could back it into their loading or unloading dock, whichever you want to describe it, and then they had to pull straight on out. And like he's going to get a bunch of yahoo at Baldwin Countyans trying to back up U-Haul trailers, this kind of stuff. It ain't gonna make it.
It looks like the layout, first of all, the layout that is shown on, that they've given us here, after I tried to understand it, I went by there, but I don't know how they were gonna handle getting people in and out up here, you know, in the back end, because that's where the people are gonna load their stuff and unload it, right?
Same way they did with trucks when it was a grocery store.
But they would have
I'm
one
not-
truck
I'm
at a
not-
time
I
in
know
there.
when it
not-
was a grocery store, that's a whole different delivery system. Half of them are delivering, you know, out of their tailgate on the thing, and just taking a hand truck and walking it in there. I'm asking, if a big truck comes in there, well,
Ask them.
I'll ask anybody. Can you back a truck into is this a dock, or is that just an open area at the back of the building? And is it on the same level as the building?
If I might be so bold as to say, before you take action on this thing, you ought to get your car.
I can't understand you, sir. Could you take your mask down just a little bit
As
so?
long as I don't get thrown out, I'd be glad to. Not trying to be impertinent, but before you take action on this thing, maybe you ought to drive out there and take a look at it and see what I'm talking about.
I'm saying, I drove out there. I did drive back by it. I couldn't figure out exactly what the layout was gonna be, and I couldn't understand why there was this little notch in the back of the building. Is that so they can kind of drive in and kind of just pull their truck over and then unload it?
And I think that notch, I'm looking at an arrow, and it looks like there's parking spaces marked behind there. And I don't know the answer if there is a loading zone. That's something we can.
Those little hash marks are parking spaces? No, I don't think that can be right.
There's an aerial of the building. That's the back of the building. See those parking spaces there?
Let me see this a little closer.
And it
Yeah.
does appear, and I.
Yeah,
this is-
okay.
This is something we're looking at the use, and some of these issues we can.
Basically, what
Is
I'm
this going to
saying
a
is,
site plan review, Holly?
this little notch is nothing more than an extra section of driveway so that people can pull in to that area and unload.
Well, it's parking right now, but the use before this was an office space, so they didn't need the delivery that the grocery store did. So I'm not sure what infrastructure's in place, but I think that's an appropriate question for the applicant. I will say, it appears to me, and I'm gonna go back to the microphone.
Okay?
It appears, looking at the plan, if I'm reading this property line correctly, anytime we have commercial against a residential, we require buffers.
You require what?
Buffers, so screening, trees, things like that.
Oh.
And if there's a lot of lines here, and it's low light and I don't have my glasses, but if I'm reading this property line right, it appears at edge of pavement, there's quite a bit of space, and based on that aerial, there are buffers provided there. And that meets all of our codes. So for B2 use, like this is special exemption, so if there's anything else you would like to provide as a board, that is an option. There actually special conditions.
If I might,
Sure. Well,
yeah,
that's up to the-
should a decision be made to proceed with this project, at minimum, require them to put an appropriate barrier between their property and my residential property. What is there now is a dilapidated, slapped-up wooden fence. Folks cut through it all the time, and I'm constantly having people cutting through my property, going to McDonald's and Agaves and everything else. If you're not going to respect my property in terms of the impact of the project, at least respect it to the point of not allowing them to let people cut across. Put up a reasonable barrier, a fence, if you will, not one of these slap it up 5 years later is going to be rotten and falling down type fences. This has been a problem we've had ever since the food world was built.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering, I can't read, what is that property line? What are the dimensions on that?
And this is my speculation, and I think we need to clarify with the applicant when they ask them back to the podium. I'm reading this, and I think it's this back line where you see the dimensions. I think that is the property line. I'm reading that, and that's the edge of asphalt, and it appears there's a fence there.
Uh-huh.
There's the back building right there. It's got a big tree line all the way in the back side. That's even cars parked in the back, and you still can get back.
You can?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think it was that wide.
Is there any plan
look
on
at it.
security?
That's it. There's
what that
cars
would be
parked
like?
back there, and you still can drive by.
Yeah, but
I think that-
on a picture he showed me of it,
That's a picture. That's a real live picture.
yeah. He did that too.
Can the applicant come to the front and kind of talk to us about maybe if you have any plans for security in the back part of that building?
Yes, sir, and I appreciate your concerns. The area in the rear, that is, or was a loading dock for tractor trailers to come in, unload groceries. Our use, we expect maybe 5 cars a day to come through this, so it would be the most low-impact use there could probably be. Right now, with the number of employees that are coming, there's maybe 15 employees that are using this facility now, coming in and out of the rear. There's probably, I don't have a scale, but 50 or 60 feet, I would guess, behind the property. And we'd be glad to repair the fence and bring it into a condition that is suitable. I mean, we want we want the customers that are coming to feel like they're visiting a first-class facility, and having a dilapidated fence isn't something that, we would want to have in relation to our business there.
Is there a big tree line behind the fence?
There is a tree line. I don't know if on what side of the fence.
It has to be on the west side of the fence. I'm looking at it, it appears to be, maybe that's a power line, I don't know. Anyhow.
So the trees more than likely are in the people's backyard that live there?
No, it looks like it's right on the property line. I see cars parked against the tree line on this picture I'm looking at.
That's what, if we're reading that image correctly, it shows edge of pavement, and then the hash lines with X's are typically a fence.
Mm-hmm.
And then the property line is even further to the west, and that, we can't see with that aerial where the tree's sitting, the trunk of the tree, but certainly the canopy is in that space, so. Looks like they're planted within that space or maybe on the property line. There is, with that site plan, and John asked a good question, if there's site plan review on this further by the planning commission. There is not. However, if there are site plans approved on this site, so it's very likely that there's a fence required and it has to be kept into maintenance, and this would certainly initiate a good review of that we can confirm it is in compliance. And I believe, and Buford is verifying that as a condition of this approval, should the board choose to lean that way, you can, I think, address the residents' concern and make sure that that fence is provided and kept in good repair.
So, yeah, I think you can answer my question. This area that is the unloading, or the loading and unloading area where people park in it and so on, that's on the same level, so there's no trucks backing up to a loading dock, so to speak.
Correct.
So everything is being unloaded into and moved by hand truck or such.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just was concerned with turning around and everything, and it is a kind of a narrow area back there. I have been back there. I have never been back there during the day when they were working. I've gone back there in the evening when I wanted to circle the building, but I've never been back there while they were actually working, so I don't know how congested it could get with the employee parking and everything else that goes on back there.
What kind of fence is back there, Platt?
It's a wooden privacy fence, I believe.
Just like a shadow box type fence?
6 foot, maybe.
All right.
You have to see, no, it's not a shadow box yet. Just slap it up and get out of town fence.
But a wooden fence, is that correct?
Yes.
And an 8-foot fence is what's allowed, correct?
Pardon me?
It's maximum height.
There's
At best, it's 6 feet.
It's what?
in different regulations within the city, there are 2 stipulations. Zoning code requires 6-foot fence. The tree ordinance for screening purposes and buffers require an 8-foot fence. So if you would rather it be one or the other, you can make that a condition if it's going to be replaced. I'm not sure what condition it is. We did not go and verify this.
And so, Chairman and board members, I think what may be in order here is just simply to reference ordinance number 1444, which is the tree landscape ordinance, which has provision within that ordinance for screening and buffering. And so, condition your approval if it's your pleasure to approve this item, and condition it that they comply with that ordinance for buffering requirements.
And the ordinance, as it's written, does it allow a person to put up an 8-foot fence?
Mr. Board Member, I'm going strictly by memory here. The tree ordinance gives options for screening and buffering, 3 primary options, what I'll summarize here very briefly. Basically, an undisturbed forest that provides a visual barrier, an 8-foot fence with evergreen plantings, or a double row of evergreen plantings. Those are 3 buffering options that buffer commercial uses from residential uses. And again, I am summarizing from memory.
Okay, and right now, it's what?
There's fence and some vegetation back there. I'm not exactly sure
Well,
what.
I
don't
say
know.
something.
Sure.
What I seen on the aerial, I see some mature trees that appears to be on the property line. I'm with Hunter, the canopy is actually going over the back part of the area. If we reference that it has to be in reference to the tree ordinance, then we may have to cut down trees and stuff, establish trees to plant double rows of trees and put up a fence.
And one other caution on this, and I think we're
I
looking
think
for
there's
options.
mature trees already there, is what I'm saying. And I think maybe a fence would be appropriate, but going back and tearing down the old fence and cutting down mature trees to plant trees to make sure it's exactly in accordance with the tree ordinance may be an issue. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, completely, and I,
I have a suggestion. Why don't they find out from the property owners that are on that area, on the opposite side area where we're
That's
talking
him.
about?
That's him.
Well, maybe, is there more than just one, there's just one person there
yes,
behind that whole area?
No, he owns all the property.
Huh?
yes.
He owns all the property behind there.
Oh, you own it all the way? Okay. Well, then-
There's another concern with, there is multiple, this is an evolution. Eco Rouge Shopping Center has evolved. And there potentially are site plan reviews and, I don't think we've ever had a PUD, but,
Not a PUD.
I would be hesitant to reference an ordinance for not only Mr. Avant's suggestion, but just in case it conflicts with another previously approved. Something required a fence. It's there, and repairing that fence and making sure it stays in, and leaving the mature trees, it would be, I think, a valid solution.
Is there a survey?
I make a motion, please.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve this contingent on the staff comments on their, you have one condition in there, I believe,
Just about the parking, to make sure that.
about the
is
parking,
zoned.
yes. The staff comments about the parking, and also to reconstruct the wooden fence in its entirety, 8-foot wooden privacy fence.
Can I add something to it? Are you allowed to?
Sure.
Yeah.
Appropriate security back there in the rear.
Such as
Because
cameras.
it backs up to a residential area and,
All
I'm
right.
sorry, I didn't address that earlier.
okay.
Yeah, we'll have a full-time manager on staff and security cameras throughout.
Just for
on some
nighttime
of the- yeah.
purposes and.
There is a security code to get in the building. There's probably be 20 cameras on the property.
On the exterior as well?
Yes.
But we can make that part of the motion, is to have security cameras in the rear of the building.
Yes.
Okay.
That brings up a good question, and I don't want to interject in the middle of a motion, but sometimes those security cameras come with lights. We might want to make sure that those lights are not affecting the residential neighborhood as well.
Yes.
Put all that in there.
And the lighting should be designed to not affect the adjacent residential property to the west.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I second it.
Okay, Kathy. So we will take a roll call vote. Kathy, are you for or against the project?
Am I voting now?
Yes. Yes,
I'm for.
for. John?
Yay?
Neil, yes.
Okay,
No.
And Dick is no. So we've got four yeses and one no. So
I think it should be,
passes.
I think it should be brought back
The
with a,
motion passed.
Motion has passed.
okay, but I think, I'd like to make a last comment.
Is there any, go ahead, Dick, I'm sorry.
The last comment I'd like to make is, I'd like to see this brought back when you have a drawing that you can read, like maybe you could bring in one that's this big and put it on a table for us so we could better understand it. Secondly, I'd like to see what they plan on doing, not just we've got a drawing of a building outline, period. I don't think it's anywhere near ready to get approved. And that's why I voted against it. Thank you.
Is there any old or new business? Do we have a meeting for next month?
We do have an application for next
For next
month.
month, okay.
We're working through that. I think believe we will have a meeting.
Okay.
Sure.
Are we going back to the other schedule where we had it scheduled?
It'll be the
on?
third Monday.
We're gonna return to Monday?
Yes, sir. The reason we didn't do that this month was
That's-
Monday was a
You
holiday.
don't have to explain that, I understand that.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. Second? No. All right. Motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.